This is a big deal. As I said, new collective bargaining agreement for the NWSL. All right, I want to do a little reading here. So there's some big changes. This is, we'll call it European style.
Yes.
What they're officially doing.
You know he's doing reading because he just put his glasses
I'm
on.
old now and I put my glasses on. So the first thing, which I actually really enjoy about sports here in America, by the way, is the draft. They're eliminating the draft. The entry draft is eliminated immediately. Expansion draft is abolished immediately. Draft is an antiquated model that treats people as property to be bought and sold. The new terms will empower players to decide which team environment is best fit for their needs and the development. So that means essentially teams are going to have to go out and recruit players.
I love this idea.
Yeah.
MLS needs to do it as well.
Yeah.
I don't like the wording. I disagree with that.
Okay.
But I will say this. The reason why is there's so many avenue and channels that the draft just doesn't work in my opinion.
Especially for soccer.
It just doesn't. There's too many avenues, and that's really that's really why. Stop with the treat people. But I don't agree.
It just doesn't work in soccer.
I don't agree with that. But I do. It does work in places like other sports where there's a streamline. It's all coming from one place.
Correct.
You're not going to have the NFL players going and
from high school,
finding a different league. Normally it's not, right?
Yeah.
It's all one place.
Right. Yeah.
Soccer is it's all over the place. You know what I mean? It's all over the place. You got here, there, every which way. That is absolutely the right move, if you ask me.
Yes.
For that reason alone.
Yes. And the problem is with the MLS draft and the NWSL draft, you feel like you're obligated to pick players when you don't want to. So I think what it does is it forces teams to do their homework. Okay, who are the top players in college? Who are the top youth players? It gives us just just whatever. And then also it gives the other leagues like USL Super League, the new one, now competition to go fight for some of these players. Because if you don't do your homework, now you could be like, oh, wow, she ended up in the USL Super League. Like, she's the superstar. And then maybe that player does so well, she gets a bigger contract in the NWSL a couple years later. So it opens up the competition, which I am always 100% for.
I would imagine most of our players are coming from academy teams anyways, especially, at least for the MLS, and that's why they need to follow the same suit.
Yes.
Yep, that's what we're hoping to do, but we'll see if that. All right, next one. Free agency for all. All NWSL players become free agents when their current contract expires. By establishing free agency for all players, the NWSL aligns itself with the rest of the world. Free agency results in fairness of contracts with teams and players mutually agreeing to enter into a contractual relationship on even terms.
So I don't understand that.
So
Help me out.
So like Ilkay Gundogan, right?
Yeah.
He let his contract at Man City 2 years ago expire.
So they don't have that?
They didn't prior. I don't know.
It's very so like MLS, for example, like you have to be a certain age and play in so many years of the league to become a free agent. Like, and it was and a lot for like baseball back then, like before the Curt Flood Act came in, and like even the NFL, like you were owned by your team. Like you didn't have a lot of sway and like that you didn't want to renew with the team and whatnot. And the league in NWSL and MLS control a lot. There's not a lot of player movement they give you. So I am always open again for more player movement in their decision.
Again, I don't understand it, but I'm glad if
whatever
you just described it.
Whatever was happening before.
It's weird. That's a weird thing.
Bring it in. All right.
Yeah.
Guaranteed contracts. Every contract, will be guaranteed. Guaranteed contracts generally prevent the league from terminating players' contracts prior to the end of their term, except in limited circumstances. This respects the mutuality and risk of contracts. It also protects players in the event of circumstances beyond their control, such as a latent health condition.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's important.
I mean, that's
Isn't all contracts guaranteed? That one I don't understand either.
yeah,
but
I don't know what was there prior, but
I'm glad
It's-
because that's the purpose of a
Not-
contract.
Not all of them for players are always guaranteed because there's always some type of stipulation of something.
I don't know.
So
Either way,
but just more assurance for the players,
Yep.
because that again in the men's game, there's not enough assurance, especially for like the domestic players coming out of college or maybe coming through the academy and whatnot. There's not enough assurance that this is guaranteed. You're going to get it for the year. There's always a thing. Well, you're going to play this many games or such and such. Like there's a lot of there's too much wiggle room that the teams can do.
All right, next on the list, there's only about 3 more here, and the last one being the most important. No trades without player consent. Players cannot be traded without their consent. This protects players from being traded against their will and without knowing it in advance. Very European there, right? Like, Brooks, you and I can negotiate as clubs for a sale of a player, and then I go, hey, by the way, Nate, Brooks sold you, and you're like, no, no, I don't want to move.
Can't do it. Yeah.
Guess what? It's done. So I like that. I think it's fine. Again, this is all in line, very European. This is the way it's going. Workload management. As the league grows, the demands on players will increase. Welcome to the rest of the world and what we've been saying for months and months and months, years now, actually, with a lot of these players, right? The new CBA addresses game frequency, travel conditions, and time off. Minimum standards for charter flights are established in the new CBA, including entitling teams to 6 legs, 3 round trips, as a matter of right and requirement that teams charter for certain midweek games. Players are assured of mid-season break and a minimum of 28 days off during the off season.
I like that.
Yeah. So just essentially saying they can't. They need to have certain amounts of time off between
in chartered
seasons
flights, which are
and
nice because when you take public flights, you never know. There's only certain times you can take off. Like this is what the MLS players have concerned about too, with charter flights and leaving when they want and flying on their own plane and have to deal with everything. So yes.
All right, last one, the big one, revenue sharing. For the first time, a collectively bargained salary cap will be tied to revenue sharing on top of a guaranteed minimum base salary cap. Shareable revenues from NWSL's prior year sponsorship and media rights agreement will be added to the team salary cap. Teams will be held to a minimum spend to ensure that shareable revenues are spent on player compensation. The NWSLPA also secured audit rights to ensure compliance with this provision. Base salary cap each year will be, in 2025, $3.3 million, 2026, $3.5, 27, $4.4 million, 28, $4.7, 29, $4.9, and in 2030, $5.1 million. Prior year NWSL media and sponsorship shareable revenues will add at least $200,000 to the base salary cap of each year.
So that's good. The league's growing. They're going to revenue share and they're going to do more. So that's going to help pay players a bit more. And
exactly.
That's,
So it ensures that the players can get paid a bit more. It ensures that the clubs can pay them. It's just, that's what happens when growth happens within a business and a league, right?
And then
share the wealth.
And then now you got new NWSL clubs that buy in, and that pot gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's positive for the women's game. I'm happy about that.
I think this is a great thing. I'd love for more leagues to take a look at this. I think, to be honest, Brooks, you may have to hit the sound button for an applause, because well done to the NWSL and NWSPA for agreeing this new collective bargaining agreement, which goes in effect pretty quick here.
Yeah, again, for the players, that's the best. Now, the thing is, if the players really won this one, the next collective bargaining agreement, they may have to give up a little bit and the next time they negotiate. So that's always how these work.
6 years away from that.
Correct.
I mean, so there's a while. We'll be there before you know it. I get that. But